This point is in honor of our guest speaker. I'd like to call item L1A. Could we do that, please?
Item out of order, yes.
Yes,
I just
please.
want to make one announcement. If you are speaking, to remind everyone to hit your mic so that you're live and the green light, and then if you want to mute it, you could turn it off, Just try to make sure we have everyone's voice being heard. The next item, the item we're taking up next, is item L1A, Board Members Requested Matters, New Matters, California Housing Finance Agency, California Mortgage Relief Program. The board will receive a special presentation on the California Mortgage Relief Program, including the recent expansion of the program that will also offer California homeowners assistance with past due property taxes. This item is presented by Ms. Cohn.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. First, I'd like to thank the California Housing Finance Agency Executive Director, Tina Johnson Hall, for responding to my request to have a representative present before this board today. As a result, we are fortunate to have Ms. Rebecca Franklin. Welcome. Please come on down. Who's going to join us for this presentation on the California Mortgage Relief Program. Ms. Franklin serves as president of the CA Mortgage Relief Program and director of Enterprise Risk Management and Compliance of the California Housing Finance Agency. So, colleagues, please acknowledge Ms. Franklin. She will make somewhere between a 15 to 20-minute presentation. And after her presentation, we have time set aside for questions. Thank you. And answers. So without any further delay, Ms. Franklin, thank you for being here today, and I'll turn the mic over to you.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me. So today I'm here to kind of give you guys an overview of the California Mortgage Relief Program. Next slide. So the agenda for the presentation goes, so kind of giving an overview, who is eligible, how people would go about applying or engaging with the program. Important information we want to review about fraudulent personnel misrepresenting the program or scams that we think Californians need to be aware of. Also additional resources in how you guys could engage with the program and promoting it with California homeowners. Next slide. So as a general overview, the California Mortgage Relief Program was established through the American Rescue Plan Act signed by President Biden in March of 2021. With the American Rescue Plan Act, they established a housing assistance fund, recognizing that homeowners were impacted due to the pandemic economically, and that may have prevented them from being able to pay their mortgage and other related costs. California was recognized as the greatest need, receiving 10% of the nation's fund, just over $1 billion for California homeowners to find relief and get caught up on those missed payments. So in December of 2021, we launched our first offering through the program, which was a mortgage reinstatement. So it's for homeowners who maybe have missed payments and have a mortgage arrearage and needed to get caught up. That's a one-time grant. I like to stress many times when I talk about this, it's a grant. They don't have to pay it back, up to $80,000. This also covers if you missed your property taxes and your servicer has fronted those charges, as well as any sort of impound or escrow fronted by the servicer. Those are all covered with that $80,000 grant. It's a one-time grant. In the mortgage reinstatement program itself, our goal is to serve about 20 to 40,000 California homeowners. Additionally, in June of this year, or this month, we still have a few more days, I guess, we launched a second offering through the program, which was a property tax relief program. That is for homeowners who maybe don't have a mortgage, don't have an escrow or impound account, and were able to keep up with their mortgage payments, but not the property tax itself. That's a one-time grant, again, a grant we don't have to pay back, up to $20,000 for arrearages in property taxes. That also may include maybe homeowners who have PACE liens in the arrearages, so that not only the property tax itself, but maybe in a PACE lien capacity. This, we stress, is one of many programs that were offered for COVID relief by our state and federal governmental partners. This is a larger part of the Housing is Key initiative of Gavin Newsom and his administration as well. So this is one of many offerings to California homeowners who maybe were affected by the pandemic. Next slide. So who is eligible? When creating this fund, our federal partners really wanted to focus these funds towards low to medium income households. So one of the main drivers of eligibility is income. Starting in June of 2022, households must be at or below 150% of their area median income. And don't worry, I go into a little bit more detail about that. Being a newbie on the housing market, I got to learn all about how area median income is. Additionally, they must be the mortgage must be on one that is an owner-occupied, single-family home, condo, or permanently fixed manufactured home. For mortgage assistance, so that reinstatement, you must have a current mortgage arrearage, and you must be at least 2 months behind as of June 30th, 2022. So you could go back up to 18 months, 24 months, but you must have been at least 2 months current as of this month, this year. For property tax, you must have missed at least one payment before May 31st, 2022, and you also must attest that you faced a pandemic-related financial hardship after January 21st, 2020. So there's kind of all of these intricacies. Again, if homeowners are listening and they want to get more detail, you can visit our website at camortgagerelief.org, and it has all of this information. Next slide. So as I promised, what is area median income? Area median income is the median of your county in which your house resides, the income. So 150% of area median income. I do encourage homeowners to not be deterred on this if it's complex and it's hard to understand sometimes. And when we talk about area median income, everyone has their own tables. There was a special table created just for this program by our partners at HUD. So I encourage people to go to our website and look, but these are very I think reasonable income. So for families of four, say in Sacramento County, the family of four must make lower than $151,000 annually. So I encourage people to not be deterred when we talk about area median income or the income limits, that we want people to engage with the program. It's complex. We're here to help you and guide you and help you figure it out. If you go to our next slide, one of the easiest ways to determine what your area median income for your county is to use the calculator on our website, which is camortgagerelief.org. By then, the homeowner can just go in and put the county where the house is residing and the number of people in your household. That doesn't mean over 18. That means if you have children, it's the number of people in your household. And that, once you hit that orange button on the screen, it will pop up a number like on the previous slide, and you will see, does your total household make less than that amount? And so you can there. If you have questions or homeowners have questions, again, you can call our contact center. You can go to our website. We're here to help and guide you. This stuff is sometimes, it's foreign to people and complex, and we're here to really, we're the experts in it. Let us engage with you. Let us figure it out with you. We're here to partner with you and get you the support if we can. Next slide. So say you've visited our website and you think, oh, this may be for me. How does it overall work? Any interested homeowner would apply on our secure portal through our website. We will review the application, and an eligibility specialist is here to engage with you, ask you questions, maybe if you need more additional documentation, etc. We'll be here. We're partnering with you. Once we've determined that you may be eligible, we will do a direct payment either to your mortgage servicer or to the county, depending on which program that you are. So we are paying directly to the servicers, directly to the county. The county or the servicer will then apply the funds, the one-time grant, and then you're caught up. So it's pretty simple and it's easy. We really tried to make this process not intimidating and really easy to use and simple. Next slide. I do want to call out a couple of things on mortgage arrearages. If there are homeowners with reverse mortgages, we still are here to help you through our mortgage reinstatement program. You would say, well, I don't have a mortgage, it's a reverse mortgage, I don't have these payments, but we are still helping those homeowners. In that situation, you would go through a reinstatement program because those funds are due to the servicer. And so we do encourage people with reverse mortgages who are behind in the property tax payments or the forced place insurance to come and engage with the program, that these grants are also available to them. And a little bit more on the expansion in the next slide, which is our property tax program. As I said, we launched it this month. So people with no mortgage or no mortgage arrearage, no escrow account, maybe you paid off your mortgage, but you owe property tax. We are here to help. We have that one-time grant up to $20,000, and we can help you get caught up. Again, you must have missed one payment prior to May 31st of this year. Again, if you have questions, our website's very easy to use, to navigate. You don't have to determine, maybe I need this, maybe that. If you just need help, reach out. We're here to help. If you have a mortgage and you're a California homeowner, let's talk about it. Let's see how we can help you through this program. How to apply is on the next slide. So as I said, we have an online application through our website. You would visit our website at camortgagerelief.org and you would hit the Apply Now button. There's an orange button on the top of the screen, and so that, if you go to the next slide, will take you to what we call our navigator or our questionnaire. This is a stressful time for homeowners, and people need help and they don't know how to get it or where to get it. So we're going to walk you through it as a program. We're going to ask you some simple questions to determine your eligibility and determine how we can best help you. While this is one of many programs, it's obviously not for every homeowner. But we do encourage people to engage with the program, engage with the navigator, and see if this is a good fit for you in your specific circumstance. If you go to the next page, next slide, sorry. So if you have determined that this is something that's potentially a good fit for you in your circumstance, it is very simple to apply. If you have all the required documentation, it should take a homeowner less than 30 minutes to complete their application. If you start an application, you have up to 30 days to complete your application. So maybe you want to get in, see what the questions are. The documents we're requiring, we really tried to make sure that they were easily accessible to all homeowners. We're talking about a couple of bank statements, a couple of either pay stubs or your unemployment statement, a utility bill to prove that you reside in that home. We do have other situations where, if you're in bankruptcy or something like that, we may require other information. But again, once you've applied, you're assigned an eligibility specialist. We'll walk you through that process and how to get those additional documentation needed. If you go to the next slide. So again, as I try to stress to homeowners and to everyone that when I talk about this program is engage with us. This is a stressful situation, and people are, I think in these times, people feel like I'm the only one in this one and that I'm by myself. You're not by yourself. California homeowners were recognized needing. We got 10% of the nation's housing assistance fund. There are a lot of people that need this money, and you didn't cause the pandemic and you didn't cause the economic impact the pandemic had on you. So it's your right to get caught up through this offering and to engage with us. There's several ways you can. We have a contact center at 888-840-2594. Additionally, we have an info box at info@camortgagerelief.org if you're more comfortable emailing us. Also, we want to stress that there are free counseling services by HUD certified counselors in the state of California. There are other programs. You don't need to be charged to see a HUD certified housing counselor that will look at your specific situation, and they're aware of all of these programs and help you match to which program is the best fit for you. You can call our contact center and we can get you in touch with a HUD counselor. There's also a 1-800 number on the slide, 1-800-569-4287. That's the HUD counseling number. Again, that's a free service to California homeowners. As I said in the next slide, it's important for us to not only talk about the eligibility, but also to talk about the potential for fraud and scams and misrepresentation of this program. As I said before, I like to repeat over and over, this is a grant. You don't have to pay it back. There is no fee for application. If someone's coming to a homeowner and asking them for a fee to apply for some sort of offering where they would have to pay it back, that is not the California Mortgage Relief Program. And we want homeowners to understand that. If you go to the next slide, just a couple of things I want to reiterate for homeowners to know. Again, it's a one-time help. It's a grant. You don't have to pay it back. There's no fee to apply. And if you want more information, if you go to camortgagerelief.org, there's more information on how to report these potential scam and fraud. It's just, unfortunate that we do have to talk about it, but I think it's something that it's very important for California homeowners to understand what this program is and is not. If you go to the next slide, as I said, you can additional resources to California homeowners. If you are behind on your mortgage payment or property tax, we just encourage you to reach out and talk to us or talk to a HUD certified mortgage counselor, again, a free service, so you can understand what the best situation to remedy this is for you, and that people shouldn't feel alone and they deserve to get caught up in this scenario from the pandemic. So if you go to the next slide. As I said, we really tried to design this program around an ease of use and a speed to getting these funds to California homeowners. When we were approved in December of 2021, we were actually able to launch 10 days after Treasury approval. So we are very proud of that. We're also continually seeking feedback from our applicants from California homeowners to ensure that we're continuing that ease of applying, that ease. And so there's my favorite quote actually on the slide is, "It sounded too good to be true, but I applied anyways. Just sent in a few documents and I was delighted to be approved in about 30 days. So it's easy to do, it's easy to engage. We're here to support you through the process, and we really encourage homeowners to avail themselves of this wonderful grant that was established by our federal partners. So now, if you go to the next slide, how can you help? Frankly, it's spreading the word. So one of the things that we stress in this program is the Cal HFA Homeowner Relief Corporation is an affiliated nonprofit to Cal HFA. But I think that when people go into the communities and when we talk about it, they want to hear from that trusted resource. They want to hear from their leaders. They want to hear from their community partners. And so you guys as community leaders also have the ability to host a town hall where we can come in and answer questions for anyone in your area, or we can engage with the program, or if you have sort of events, we have booths we can do and run. So we're here to engage. One of the priorities of the program is to make sure that we're providing this program and marketing it in a culturally competent, in language support preference way. So if you do not speak English, if you do not feel comfortable communicating in English, our contact center can translate. All of our materials are translated into 6 languages. We can get you into a different translator on the phone if the contact center. We also, if you go to the HUD certified counselors, they have services obviously offered in different languages. And we really leverage the community-based organization model in order to get this word out. People want to talk to their trusted resource, the people they know about these stressful situations. And so we really, really do rely on the community and our leaders to get the word out and help engage in the different ways. Additionally, if you go to the next slide, we do have partner resources on our website, camortgagerelief.org/partner resources. You also can go to the next slide. We also have social media. We have different kind of pre-done ads in different languages to help share, promote through your own websites or social media, etc. If you go to the next thing, we do use the hashtag #GetCaughtUp. So we like to use that hashtag when we're posting. One more slide forward, please. And we do also have a bunch of materials that I think some of them were already distributed to you around fact sheets, one-pagers, how to apply, et cetera. It has our contact center on there, et cetera. If you go to the last slide, again, if you are a homeowner and you want to engage with the program, you can visit us at camortgagerelief.org. You can call us at 888-840-2594 or email us at info@camortgagerelief.org. I just really stress that people just come in and talk to us and see if this is a good fit for them. They owe this. It's been a rough few years, so let's work together to get you caught up. At this time, I welcome any questions.
Thank you very much. It's a really thorough presentation. I wanted to talk a little bit about, you said something that made me think. You mentioned about hosting or co-hosting a town hall. Do you have any examples? Has that already been happening?
Yeah.
The program's been around since December, right?
Yeah, so since December, we have been hosting town halls with our legislative partners in the California State Assembly and Senate. We also have held some events with Senator Padilla's office and other federal partners. Obviously, Chairwoman Waters was a writer of the half of the Housing Assistance Fund at the federal level, so she's been very engaged in distributing materials. So we do have a lot of legislative partners doing town halls. We do a webinar such as this, and then we open it up for questions, or we take people can submit questions ahead of time so we can prepare answers for that.
I think what alerted me to this program was the treasurer sent me a text message saying, hey, share this on your social media. It was a link, and I got to thinking that this would be good, relevant information here within the California Board of Equalization. And is there any way that we can continue to partner with you? Do you have any other upcoming events that are already scheduled in terms of town halls or outreach or tabling?
So what we do for community-based organizations is we have a network of CBOs throughout the state that come in and do different events in different markets, maybe like a farmer's market or some sort of community event, et cetera. They host a lot of things. I think that I would encourage you guys, or I would encourage anyone who wants to host their own town hall. We also can connect, and you guys can be a joint host of another town hall that we have. I don't know if we have any scheduled at this moment, but it's certainly something that we're more than willing to do. We usually do them virtually, or if there is a live event, we can have a booth.
Okay, I have a couple follow-up questions. So to date, are you able to highlight for us the number of homeowners that have taken advantage of this program?
Yeah, so to date, we've distributed about, I'm rounding, but around $70 million to California homeowners, and that's about over 2,000 households helped.
Thank you. What's the average award per homeowner under the program?
I think it's around 30. So these numbers I'm giving you are reinstatement. Our property tax program has just launched, so it's around 35,000 is the average award.
Okay. And can you highlight for us one more time the most significant changes that occurred this month to the mortgage relief program?
Yeah, so they're kind of in two buckets. First, for our reinstatement program, we upped the income eligibility. It used to be at 100% of your area median income. We're now at 150%. I do encourage, though, use the table on our website. Our partners at Housing and Community Development say they post an AMI table. It's not going to be the same.
Okay.
So use the one on our website. So that income went up a lot. And then also we reset our delinquency by date. So originally when we launched, you had to be 2 months delinquent as of December of 2021. We've now reset that. We recognize that the pandemic didn't stop, the economic impact didn't stop, and homeowners maybe have fallen delinquent earlier this year, so we've reset that. It's 2 months. You must have a current mortgage delinquency or arrearage, and you must have missed at least 2 payments as of this month, June of 2022. And then the other giant, big part of the expansion was the property tax. So that is new. So that's why I'm saying when we're giving numbers, we haven't even seen the influx of the property tax applications that we've been receiving over the last couple weeks.
Okay, so the original program just gave mortgage relief, and this one gives not only mortgage relief but also property tax relief.
Yeah, so the original program was mortgage relief, but it was your entire payment. So your payment, if you have an impound or escrow account, it includes your actual principal pay down and interest of your mortgage, your property tax payment, and your insurance. So if you were behind in any of those and you had an impound account, we were assisting you. Now, for homeowners who don't have a mortgage or et cetera, then they just owe property tax. There's this new way to get aid.
And then this has been around since December of 2022 when the governor signed this legislation, and I'm curious to know what are some of the most significant lessons you've learned regarding the outreach and engagement.
Yeah, so while we've always made it a priority to be culturally competent and in language of preference in our support of Californians, it's a diverse population. I think that's great and it makes us an amazing state, but it's also one where we need to continually strive to make sure that we are providing information in a culturally competent and in language way. So making sure that our translations are, something that, sometimes a literal translation doesn't get the meaning across, right? So a big lesson learned. We hold a lot of focus groups on our language translations, on our marketing materials. Also, as I said, that that trusted resource, that community resource, being the one notifying you about the program and helping you apply. Sometimes this sounds too good to be true as a program, this nonprofit handing out these grants. And so looking to, our leaders in the communities, looking to, these community-based organizations that have a track record of providing aid, leveraging those trusted resources, I think is an essential thing for homeowners to feel comfortable. As I said, I think it's a stressful situation, and people, a home is not just something over your head to keep you out of the rain. It's something that maybe was an American dream. It's something that you worked for, your grandparents worked for and sacrificed. And the thought of losing that could just be earth-shattering for people. And I think sometimes you need that trusted resource from the community to reach out and say, you deserve this. You didn't cause the pandemic. You didn't cause this economic impact. You deserve this help. It's okay to reach out and get it. And so I think those are kind of the giant lessons learned on promoting this program.
And maybe you can give us some color and some context around some of the most significant challenges that homeowners are experienced in attempting to take advantage of the program.
So I think one of the things that we didn't, the program itself submitted its plan to the U.S. Treasury in August of last year, and we were approved in December. Between August and December, in a very, very gracious manner, our federal partners at HUD, FHA, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac also were making policy changes, recognizing that homeowners were behind. They may have been 2 years behind and they needed help. And so there was a lot of policy changes, and some homeowners maybe took some of those options, say a loan modification or a deferment. So when you're coming to this program, we stress this is for current delinquencies. You have to have a money owed. When you look at your mortgage statement, there needs to be a past due balance. If it's zero, that's great. You decided to, there are multiple ways to help you in this situation, and you just decided to take another path, which is great. And I, respect everyone who did that. So I think for homeowners that maybe took those other paths, if you don't have a current mortgage arrearage, this isn't the program for you. But I think additionally, we recognize that while maybe people cured their loans in, say, September and took a loan modification, the economic impact stayed. And so maybe they have fallen behind again.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why one of the main reasons why we decided to reset that delinquency by date.
Do you guys have a database of housing development corporations across the entire state that you reach out to?
Can you elaborate on that?
I'm from San Francisco, and we've got the San Francisco Housing Development Corporation that helps with first-time home buyers, getting fiscally healthy, down payment assistance, and just kind of coalescing the resources that are available to first-time home buyers from the federal level as well as the state level. And I'm just wondering if you guys have a relationship with these different centers across the entire state. If I'm not, I heard you refer in your presentation to.
HUD certified?
Yes.
Yeah. So as part of an outreach in the program, we have trained all the housing counseling offices. They call them HCAs. So HUD certified mortgage counselors work out of a HUD counseling or a mortgage office. And so we have offered training, sent all of our materials to all of those offices in the state of California. We also engage with a lot of community advocates. We also have a legal services grant that we've offered through the program to provide through the state bar legal services to homeowners who maybe have very complex issues that need a little bit more, parceling out of information. I'm not aware of that specific that you referenced. I think I would love to be able to get in contact with that network, though, and we would be happy to share information.
Sure. I'm happy listening to the presentation, just thinking about the people that I know in the 9 Bay Area counties. You think about the county's board of supervisors, you think about their committee structure. It also has me thinking about if there's a way that we can connect our BOE websites to your website. Can we just get a button or some kind of a
Absolutely.
hyperlink?
Yes, we have buttons available. We can there as part of the rollout for the property tax. We did work with the California Association of Tax Collectors. They actually had a working group where we co-designed the program itself and the technology around it. We do have buttons. We've encouraged all of the county tax collectors' offices to put their buttons on the website. Make their own press releases, release their own materials. We also work with the servicing community, so the banks and the servicing for mortgages. They have sent out hundreds of thousands of emails to their delinquent homeowners, and informing them of this program as well. So yes, we do have buttons available for websites.
Okay. And I was wondering if are there any unique strategies that you guys are employing to connect with communities of color? I know you said you had culturally competent presentations, but is there any additional strategies that you're using to connect with the community?
Yeah, so the federal legislation has a call out for the program to target and promote these funds going to what socially disadvantaged communities. So the program defines, the California Mortgage Relief Program defines a socially disadvantaged community as a community in a QCT, Qualified Census Tract. We also leveraged a study, a pandemic-related study of homeowner vulnerability index through the UCLA Knowledge Neighborhood Center. So they have rated on a 5-point scale, 5 being most vulnerable, 1 being least, obviously. So if socially disadvantaged communities are communities which reside either in that qualified census tract or in highest and high, 5 and 4 of that UCLA study, that homeowner vulnerability. And they take a lot of things into account as far as like if there are jumbo loans or, you know, is there mass transit and pollution ESG. So that study is very comprehensive as well as the QCT. So we don't necessarily, we target those communities, and those communities are diverse communities of various different ethnicities and races. We also, the state of California decided in our program to reserve 60% of that $1 billion to homes in the socially disadvantaged communities. So 60% of all, and I'm sorry, 40%, my bad, 40% of all of the funds that we disperse will be dispersed to those socially disadvantaged communities. Additionally, the U.S. Treasury has set a reservation of 60% of the funds we distribute will be to those lower income households, which are at or below 100% of AMI. So we have that reservation around the socially disadvantaged communities. So we really have committed to making sure that those funds go to those communities.
Okay. I don't have any other questions. Colleagues, anyone? Mr. Vasquez?
Yes, thank you for that excellent presentation. And as I was listening to the numbers, when our chair brought up, you know, the numbers, those are the numbers you were talking about in the state of California. Because I had as I was looking at this, my staff was doing some research in just in LA, in my district, the county, and I noticed it was like 560 households in LA County alone, which when I look at the numbers and the need in that area, it's like 1%. It's really small. And I think our chair was bringing up the point, you know, how do we maybe work with you and partner to get the word out? Because I'm sure there's a lot more folks that would qualify for this thing. And I think you kind of touched on it in your presentation, that I think part of the frustration or some of the issues that, or obstacles, I guess, you run across is that, you know, I think a lot of people, you know, that are sitting on these assets, you know, maybe feel a little embarrassed by it because, you know, and they just think that they're not, I guess they don't feel like they deserve this type of assistance or a handout if they are sitting on an asset, which I get it. And I think you're hitting the right points by trying to explain to people that at the end of the day, you know, they didn't create the pandemic. You know, it was just one of these unfortunate situations. But at the end of the day, you know, there's money available to assist these folks. So I was just wondering what we could do, and I think you kind of touched on it. And it sounds like you're available, or your group possibly, to do some outreach with this. And I think one of the groups that might be real key, and I know, Madam Chair, you brought up the issue of connecting with a lot of these nonprofits. I know like San Francisco has one. We have one in Santa Monica. And I know in Southern California there's a group, I think it's called SCAMP. And I don't know if you heard of them, but it's basically a lot of nonprofits that are doing a lot of housing in the Southern California, and I'm assuming they have a similar one that covers the northern part of the state as well. But those are probably some real good networks, maybe to reach out and see what we can do to get the word out.
Yeah, we welcome, we're ready, willing, and able to do whatever you think is best to reach to your communities. And we're always seeking feedback on how we can better connect and better engage. Like I said, we'll run a booth, we'll make a webinar, we'll do it on Zoom, we'll come in person. We really just want to meet people where they are and have them be able to trust us and engage with the program itself.
So it sounds like you have some, or at least people power, resources to help us and do those outreaches if we were to set some up in our respective districts?
Absolutely. We have the ability, we have a team of people, and we've been doing this for almost 6 months. So, we can set you up a Zoom, we can, we have the presentations, we have the manpower to do it. So really, you just have to get the word out and collect the audience, and we're here to help you, kind of spread the word.
Appreciate it.
Colleagues, anyone else? Yes, please, Mr. Gaines.
Yeah, thank you very much for the presentation, very helpful. Can you tell me what the deadline is?
So the legislation, we have till September of 2025 to distribute these funds. These funds are first come, first serve, with the reservations in mind, so that 40% for socially disadvantaged communities, that 60% for the lower income households. So it's first come, first serve, but we have a few years to get this out, but we'd like to help people now. When building the plan, we did a lot of listening sessions and community outreach, and the California homeowners said, this is scaring us, we're stressed, can you get this out now? And so we prioritize getting funds out to the street to these homeowners first. So, first come, first serve. So we do encourage people to engage and engage now.
Great. And how much money is available for California again? Yeah, I think you told us earlier. But
So we have about $950 million to
Okay.
distribute.
Okay.
I'm rounding, but
Yeah, all right, that's great. And measures are being taken to make sure that we don't want the public defrauded, but we don't want the government defrauded either. So in terms of the processes and steps you take to make sure the money's going to the right people, I'm imagining that you're on that and tracking it. And
yeah. So my day job is the director of enterprise risk and compliance. So when I update the HFA board, I keep saying that's what you get when you have the risk person running the program. So we do take it very seriously. Just as we dedicate time to talk about fraud and scams to homeowners. Our program, we want to make sure that these funds are intended to go to these, intended recipients. So we do take some time. That's why we do require some of those documentation, the bank statements, the utility bill. We we wanted to balance doing our due diligence to ensure the right people get the funds with making sure it's not extra burdensome to the homeowner. I do think the program has struck a really nice balance with that. We survey all of our applicants, and we have gotten really good feedback on, that the what we're asking and what, kind of the processes we do take to make sure that, no fraud is occurring isn't at the detriment of someone feeling overwhelmed and they're not applying, right? So there's a delicate balance there, and I think we have reached that balance. But, fraud and making sure, again, these funds go to those specific communities that we've outlined is a number one priority for this project. Also, the online portal is, very secure. We follow all of information security standards from the federal government as well as the state government, being an affiliated nonprofit to a state agency. So, people should feel comfortable engaging with the portal. It's online, it's secure. It's, it's just like working with another federal program and engaging with that. So we do we do also take that also very seriously in the program.
I'm concerned because of the history at EDD.
Yes.
And that, I don't know exactly what happened, but it seems like they were trying to push out a lot of money quickly, and there weren't the right safeguards in place, and a lot of fraud was committed.
We do leverage lessons learned of the other relief programs that have been launched prior to this program, and we did kind of review those learnings when designing this program. We did have the luxury of being one of the later relief programs. Also, when you're talking about EDD or you're talking about, say, rental assistance, when funds are going directly to households, it's just a different fraud landscape than when you're paying directly to a bank, to a servicer, or to the county.
True.
So.
Yeah, good, thank you. Appreciate it.
Great. This has been so informative. Any other questions? Go ahead, Mr. Polite.
Well, I'd like to thank you for your thorough presentation, but I'd also like to thank Chair Cohen for bringing this matter before us.
Oh, yeah, no problem. Yeah, absolutely. I want to spread the good news and get the word out. Absolutely. So, do you have any advice for us? I know my wheels are turning on ways to enhance and leverage the work that you're doing. Do you have anything that you want to ask of us?
No, I just appreciate you guys having me here today and just like an opportunity to talk about this program and engage with you guys. You guys are seen as, leaders in your own districts and areas, and I think that, partnering with us to help, promoting the program will be an essential thing for us to be able to continue to get the funds out to the needed people. You have my contact information. I'm available at, we'll engage, there. And don't let the resource constraint, I know, we all, in government, we all work with, with resource constraints. This program is staffed to be able to market and engage. So we have, the Zoom setups, we have the webinars, we have the whatever. We just need you to collect the people, and we'll bring the information to you.
Okay.
So.
Do you also do in-person presentations as
Yes,
well?
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, however you feel is best to connect with your community, we'll be there.
Okay, one more question.
Yes.
Do you have a map of specific target areas, target counties that based on tax filing data that are in need, that we should be specifically targeting our energy or, concentrating our energy in this part of California?
So if you go to camortgagerelief.org, on the top band, there's a word statistics, and it's our dashboard. There's a map on there, and it has overlays of that QCT OVI, socially disadvantaged definition. It also kind of shows the areas where we're funding the most applications or receiving the most applications, so that information. If you want district or county specific information, we can drill down to that. We would just probably need to understand kind of what scope. If you're looking at from a need perspective, we do have data around kind of homeowners, so they talk about newly delinquent or severely delinquent. It's 30, 60, 90, 120. So a foreclosure proceeding kind of really starts at that 120-day mark. We do have information around, I think that's a zip code level at best, of where homes are being, where there are more delinquencies popping up. And we do direct mailers. So the first step in your foreclosure proceeding is a notice of default. They call them NODs. We do a snail mail mailer to those households that are receiving NODs. So we do have that information. If you wanted it more like your district or your area specific, we could get that to you.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Yeah.
Okay, anyone else? If not, we're going to take public comment on your presentation, and if there isn't any, then we'll say thank you. Thank you for coming to make that presentation to us.
AT&T moderator, please let us know if there's anyone on the line who would like to make a public comment regarding this item.
If you'd like to make public comment on this item, please press 1 then 0 at this time. Madam Chair, there's no one queuing up at this time.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, Ms. Cicchetti.
Go back to where we were on the agenda.
Yes, please.
The next item is K4A, Property Tax Deputy Director's Report, Operational Updates, and the Proposition 19 Implementation Actions and Guidance. A report on the status of pending and upcoming projects, activities, and departmental issues. This item will be presented by Mr. Young.
Thank you. Hello, Mr. Young.
Thank you. Hello. Hello, Chair Cohen, honorable members of the board. My name is David Young, Deputy Director of the Property Tax Department. I have for you today a presentation on the operational going-ons in our department. So I will first start off with a report on the implementation of Prop 19, and which will be followed by several reports from our team in their respective areas. So first, Prop 19 implementation. So with your action and your adoption earlier today, board staff will now shift their priorities and their actions to making those two property tax rules, 462.520 and .540, into permanent amendments to those rules. So, and our goal is, as Mr. Moon has pointed out, will be to bring them before the board for action sooner than later. So hopefully we can do that. We can do that within the the 160 days, 180 days. So with that, we are also we have completed with the board's action in May your adoption of the 7 property tax forms that were amended for Prop 19. Your adoption, the staff has gone ahead and made those 7 forms, put them in electronic format and posted them on our assessor's portal. So the assessors have access to them for use in their county to administer Prop 19. Also, work continues on reviewing and updating our property tax webpage, specifically dedicated to Prop 19. So we are making sure that our information there is up to date and complete. So work is ongoing there. And lastly, we continue to field a lot of questions on Prop 19. So Prop 19 is still a very hot topic of discussion. Staff gets a lot of inquiries on that, and it makes up a significant portion of our workload. So with that, I also, if I may, I wanted to add one clarification that Mr. Vasquez asked of the TRA earlier today on the issue was intergenerational transfer and with multiple assets to pass on. So while Ms. Thompson is correct, it does need to be a primary residence, and there is no provision for a rental or anything other than a primary residence. There's also no prohibition in that law against doing it more than one time. So you can do it serially if that is the wish of the parent or the grandparent. There's no prohibition against them passing on one asset at a time, as long as it meets all the qualifications of the intergenerational transfer. It has to be primary residence. You have to get the homeowner's exemption. If they meet that, there is no prohibition against it. We've already given guidance on that. It is in our LTA. It's LTA 2021-008, and it's example number 10. So I refer you to that, and it's also covered in our property tax rules, the 2 that we were amending. So it is in property tax rule 462.520A5, and that addresses the ability to do it more than once. You just can't do it all at once, but if you have multiple, you may be able to do it through a series of transactions.
So one could do it, like, let's say I'm sitting on 5 properties, and right now when I'm living, I could do one today to one of my son, and then a year later do one to my daughter, and then a year later do another to another son.
As long as they meet the qualifications, they are your
So
primary
that's one way to
residence.
get around it.
You meet the primary.
Sir, we're not getting around
Well, no, but
It's not
anything.
It's not getting
The
around
law
anything, but there's no.
allows.
well, no, the law allows it. It's
Yes,
law allows
right.
it.
No, he's saying it's legal.
I'm just saying it's
It's-
just a little
No, I
misleading
know.
when you say get around.
It's just, it is a way to do it within the confines of the statute, the property tax rule, and our guidance. The guidance is already out there, and so is the property tax rule. So those are the references.
Well, and you said, so as I'm talking to folks, especially as I've been bringing it up in my meetings, people are they're dumbfounded, they're trying to figure out, what do they do? So that's one of I could just refer them to to the LTA, basically.
They're
And it'll
extra-
kind of walk you, or at least hopefully answer their questions, and they could call in, right?
It's extra steps,
Yeah,
but there is a way, it allows for it.
that allows it.
It
That's
allows
good
for
deal.
it.
All right, looks like
Okay.
he's satisfied with that answer. Thank you, Mr. Young.
Of course, and if I may, just one last thing before I turn over to our next presenter. There has been much discussion as of earlier today about our recruitment process. I just wanted to recognize our staff, our whole staff, from our chiefs to our managers, to our supervisors, to our seniors, and our associates. Part of what made us so successful is that the tremendous work they actually put in the recruitment process. The recruitment process is a very long process. And not only the recruitment process itself, the actual absorption of the newly hired staff into our workflow, it's a long, long process. I know they have put in a lot of work in mentoring, training, and just basically helping staff be fully functional. The work that we do is highly technical and is highly specialized. For somebody to walk in, even somebody who has appraisal experience and is skilled, it's almost a 3-year process before they're full journey level and able to perform work independently. So the recruitment process is the beginning. There's a lot of work thereafter. And I just wanted to recognize staff on their ability to basically recruit, train, and keep up with our workload. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll get down here.
That's
Down
fine.
here.
Go ahead.
Okay, we'll go down here.
Just to go back to the examples that we were speaking about a moment ago,
Yes.
part of those requirements would be that the parent or grandparent would have to establish each of those properties as their primary residence.
You are absolutely correct. It
Okay.
is a serial process. You have to meet all the qualifications, each and every one of them. So you would have to do that,
One at a time.
one at a time. But
For
there's no
for the
there's no-
transfer.
Correct.
Okay,
But there's no prohibition against you doing it twice.
Okay.
Or 3 times.
all right. Thank you.
Mr. Gaines?
Great, thank you. Yeah, appreciate your comments, and I just wanted to ask you about, you've got your regular duties that you're performing, the BOE is, but you mentioned a lot of times being spent with regards to Prop 19, and that doesn't seem to be subsiding. Is that an accurate statement?
That is very accurate.
Okay.
It's held pretty steady, and if I may be so bold as to look into my crystal ball, I suspect it'll actually pick up
Okay,
because the base year transfer provision. What a lot of people don't realize is that it's more than just a small expansion of that program. It's an expansion in 3 folds. One, it takes off the limit from a one-time thing. You can do it 3 times. 2, it makes it basically inter-county throughout the whole California. Before it used to be 12. Now all 58 counties participate. And then the last one is that it basically takes off the cap with the base year transfer for 60, 90, 110 under the old provisions. You have to meet the equal or less as defined, or it won't qualify. Now, if it doesn't meet, the extra just gets added on. So when people actually figure out all these extra benefits in there, I suspect the filings will be higher and the inquiries will
I see.
follow.
yeah, okay, thank you. And then we've got the hiring going on too. You were talking about the training and mentoring and things of that nature. And this is really really in the definition of our executive director in terms of our staffing, but it makes me question whether, are we properly staffed going forward into the future, given some of these additional challenges.
There's no shortage of work.
Okay. Well, you're doing a good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
You are. You and your entire team.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Mr. Schaefer, anything on your part? Nope, no, sir. You're fine, okay. All right, Mr. Vasquez?
Just a quick thing, kind of to follow up on what Member Gaines was mentioning and what you just made a comment about. I guess at some point as we look, and I think I brought it up to our executive director, we should look at it moving forward because it looks like this, not only Prop 19, but some of the other things that we're starting to do to really try to get as much of this information out as possible is going to be at some point not enough. I don't think we're going to have enough capacity within our staff, and I think something we should be looking at as and I imagine that this might not be the right time, but maybe at the beginning or the end of this year, next year, as they're looking at future state budgets, is to put together a good request, right? All right, thanks.
All right, thank you, Mr. Young.
Yes.
Let me pivot to Ms. Cicchetti. Ms. Cicchetti, we don't take public comment
No.
on this one, right? We're going to.
No, we continue down to the next sub-item.
That's right. Please continue.
The next sub-item is letters to the assessor presented by Ms. Lumsden.
Chair Cohen and honorable board members. My name is Patty Lumsden. I'm Chief of the County Assessed Properties Division, and I'm here this afternoon to present a brief report on our letters to assessors. Attached to the agenda again this month is a memo on letters to assessors, and it provides you with all the letters to assessors that have been issued since our last board meeting. And it also provides a link to our website for all letters to assessors that we have issued to date. As of our date of the memo, we have issued a total of 24 LTAs and for 2022, and we have issued 5 of those since our last board meeting. And I'll go ahead and give you a brief summary of those 5 as follows. The first one is an LTA announcing the annual meeting of the State Board of Equalization and the 58 county assessors, which is scheduled to be held at 10 a.m. on October 19th, 2022 at 450 N Street in Sacramento. The next LTA announces the appointment of Ms. Yvette Stowers as our BOE's new executive director, which became effective on April 26, 2022. The next is an LTA providing the assessment appeals filing periods for each of the 58 counties as certified by the clerks of the boards of those counties pursuant to the requirements of Revenue and Taxation Code Section 1603. Another LTA announcing the addition of Section 64.1 to the Revenue and Taxation Code per Senate Bill 267, which relates to legal entities owning active solar energy systems pursuant to a partnership flip transaction. And finally, an LTA announcing the 2022 Taxpayers' Bill of Rights hearing, which will be held on August 30th, 2022 at 450 N Street in Sacramento. That will conclude my report on letters to assessors, and I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Madam Chair, I have a question. If you're...
Please do.
Okay. Thank you for that. The update, Ms. Lumpson. I was just wondering, you stated, I guess, there was 33 training courses being offered, including those that are most in demand. And I just have 2 questions. One of them, would you tell us what those are and the ones that are the most in demand?
So if I may, that is on my training and certification presentation, which will be my next report, if you can
I'll wait.
give me a moment to get to that.
Well, you know what?
Okay.
If I can go back, and I don't know if this is something that you'd be answered, or if it was Mr. Young, because you caught me off guard when we got into this other issue on Prop 19. But you had mentioned in your opening remarks about obviously redoing the website and trying to make it a little bit more not only user-friendly, but hopefully share as much information as possible, and it was kind of in draft form. And I was, in terms of some of the changes, because you're constantly updating this thing, and I was wondering if you could just be a little bit more specific in terms of what are some of the things, including the one that you just mentioned to us earlier, if there's anything else that we should kind of put out there in terms of things that people should be looking out for that could be helpful to them.
Wow. Our webpage for Prop 19 actually is pretty complete, and it's pretty dense. There's a lot of material out there. So far, what we're doing is we're going back, and as we make these amendments to the property tax rules, we're making sure that the advice that we gave prior still comports to it, and we're making those amendments right now. So we're catching a lot of technical issues right now. As to what we can do to make it a little bit more user-friendly, I think I hate to say we're okay, but there's always room for improvement. But as we're getting feedback from users as to how to look for things, is there a better summary? Is there a way we can maybe put an index out there that guides them a little easier? We're going to look at all those and incorporate those as we can. So I think right now we have pretty good information out there. It's pretty up to date. We're just trying to make sure that we get every level correct. So we will keep looking. Ms. Lumsden, do you deal with a lot of the daily interactions with taxpayers and callers? Do you know of any pertinent issues that may be advantageous for us to incorporate at this point?
Well, of course, as Mr. Young stated, is we're always open to improving our website and the information that we have on our website and how we display it. As for the Prop 19, most of my staff, of course, they are the champions behind handling the majority of the calls and questions that we get. I do get some as well, but they are the true heroes behind the scenes that get, the majority of these calls. However, I will say that our Prop 19 webpage is it's very well laid out. It has like tabs to give you resources. It has a tab to give you letters to assessors that have been issued to date. It also has another tab with frequently asked questions. So it is broken out pretty well. It's not just kind of thrown out there so that the average person, is just getting overloaded with all this information. It does kind of break it out a little bit. So it is pretty user-friendly in that sense. But we're always open to suggestions. I mean, so if you were hearing anything from your constituents, we're always happy to hear about that. So just let us know.
No, that's good to hear, because I understand it's still kind of a live document and things are constantly changing. And as I hear from at least my folks in my district, I will pass those on to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, certainly. Sometimes the more information there is, sometimes it can be a little overwhelming.
Right.
But we definitely have it set up pretty well in terms of being able to go through and look for specific things. Now, of course, it may require you to dig through the different LTAs to find exactly what you're looking for, but they are titled, and so it is broken out. But at least they are broken out into sections on the webpage.
Thank you.
Anyone on this end? Any questions? Nope. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Does that conclude your presentation?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Katie?
The next sub-item is appraisal training and certification, presented by Ms. Lumsden.
Again, I'm Patty Lumsden, Chief of the County Assessed Properties Division. I will now be giving you a presentation on our appraisal training and certification program, or a brief report, actually. Since our last board meeting, we have finished setting the appraiser training schedule for the coming 22-23 fiscal year, and we have posted this schedule to our website. Last fiscal year, we were only able to convert 5 of our most requested courses into a virtual format, and we taught a total of 23 classes. And I'm going to go ahead and give you those 5 most requested courses that we converted into this virtual format. The first one was Course 2A, which is a replacement cost estimating of residential structures. The other one was Course 3, Residential Appraisal Procedures. The next one was Course 5, which is the Income Approach to Value. Then Course 52, which is Valuation of Restricted Land, so also some of you know as CLCA land. Course 56, Advanced Sales Comparison and Income Capitalization Approaches. So those were our 5 most common classes requested, and part of that reason was not only does it help you as you're a new appraiser, but it also helps the appraiser obtain their advanced certification going forward. So they were all classes that were very well needed. There were also classes that were more easily to convert into a virtual setting, and when I talk about a virtual setting, I'm talking about conducting these classes with a real instructor, but it's through a Teams, Microsoft Office Teams environment rather than in person. Sometimes we'll talk about online courses, but I'm referring to something completely different that's on the website as opposed to our virtual classes which are taught through Teams rather than in person. So I just want to make that clear. For this coming fiscal year, we have added an additional 3 courses to those original 5 courses. So we will also now be teaching Course 2B, which is a replacement cost estimating of commercial and industrial structures. And we also added Course 7, which is appraisal of agricultural property. And then we also added Course 120, which is investment mathematics and financial calculators. These 3 additional courses that we've added this year are going to be taught in person because they're a little bit more technical and complicated and have a lot more mathematical calculations, so they were not something that we could easily convert into a virtual format. So now we're going back to being able to add those additional 3 classes. So we now are going to be teaching a total of 8 courses, and we have scheduled a total of 33 classes for this coming fiscal year, which is 10 more than we were able to offer last year. So we're very pleased with that. In addition to this, so the schedule of these classes, some of them will be in person and some of them will be virtual. And that way it will give the assessor and their staff to be able to figure out what might be the best for each of their staff members to learn. and/or with their budgets, so they can plan for whether or not they need to have someone travel or not. We found that a little bit of both has been working out, would work out better for the assessors and their staff. So, in addition to these virtual and in-person classes, we also plan on offering 2 workshops in the future. One is going to be on taxable possessory interests, and the other will be on mineral properties. And both of these will be given virtually via Microsoft Office Teams, and they will be 2 to 3 hour long courses, and we plan on offering them to more than 100 people, whereas our current classes that we teach either virtually or in person typically are anywhere between 30 to 40 students, because we need to have that one-on-one instructor experience, where when you have 100 people in the class or more, you're not really able to do that. But with these workshops, the intent behind them is just to provide general information on these topics, and that way that it's more of a discussion, questions and answers, as opposed to needing to run out, mathematical problems and that sort of thing. So it allows them to have us to be able to reach out to more people to provide that information. So we're looking forward to getting those added to our schedule as well. So as part of our process improvement plan to increase the number of classes being scheduled, we also were able to get commitments to teach from some of our courses from 2 counties, which were Los Angeles County and also Sacramento County. And in addition to that, we've been in discussion with several other counties, and once we can confirm whether or not they would be able to commit to teaching for us, we will then add those additional classes to the schedule as well. So we're looking forward to that, and we've really appreciated the collaboration that we've had with those additional counties. So at our last board meeting, Member Gaines had requested that we provide some statistics on the number of students in recent years that have taken our classes through either American River College or the Sacramento State Continuing Education course. That are 2 online systems that we utilize. So the first 2 online courses that I will be giving statistics on are entry-level courses on basic appraising, and they're designed to help new appraisers and auditor appraisers prepare for taking the BOE certification exam. So, and the third online course that I will be talking about is an entry-level course on machinery and equipment that is geared more towards new auditor appraisers, but is also beneficial to new appraisers. And all 3 of these online courses were operating prior to COVID, and they've been up and running for several years. So it's not something that we started doing with COVID. We've been offering them in this manner for quite some time. So I'll start with the first class, which is the American River College Appraising for Property Tax Purposes, which is also known as Property Tax 310. Keep in mind there are typically 4 classes offered per year. They are offered through American River College, so a student would sign up through American River College to take these classes. Also, and they would pay a fee for that. Those fees right now are at currently $46 per unit, and this particular class is 1.5 units. In addition to that, those 1.5 units can go towards any of their college credits as well. We have an adjunct professor on our staff. One of our BOE staff members has been made an adjunct professor to teach this course. And that in mind, so in 2018, we had a total number of students for the year that were taught were 72, and 40 of those were assessor staff. The high was in 2019, which went up to 83, and there were 39 assessor staff being taught in that class. That is the other thing to keep in mind, is these classes through American River College are also open to the public. Anybody that wants to sign up for them can take them. So in 2020, we saw a slight drop, which was 78 students took the class, and 36 of those were assessor staff. 2021, we saw another slight decrease, which is 74, and a total of 29 students that were assessor staff. So far in 2022 to date, which is about half the year, we have 46 students that have taken the class, and 22 of those were assessors and their staff. I'm going to go on and compare that to the Sacramento State class that we have that's called Basic Appraisal, and they're both similar classes. They're just taught in different venues. And so this class is taught on a monthly basis. A student would sign up at the beginning of the month through the BOE. It's a free class to either BOE students or to assessors and their staff, but it is not open to the public, and it is not available for any college course units or anything like that. There is no instructor, but what we've done is we've added additional material to provide to each of the students to give them resources to help them with this class. So in 2018, there was 103 students that took this class, 93 of which were assessors' staff. In 2019, it went up to 117, and there was a total assessor staff of 111. 2020, there was 109, so it went down a little bit, and there was 105 of those that were assessor staff. 2021 was the high, which was 130 students, and 114 of those were assessor staff. And then so far to date in 2022, there are 37 students have taken the class, and 33 of those have been assessor staff. So the final course that I'll go over is the American River College Appraisal of Machinery and Equipment online class, which is also known as Property Tax 311. And this class typically has 3 classes held per year. And again, you sign up through American River College and you would pay the fees for that. And they're open to both the public as well as to assessor staff and BOE staff. So in 2018, we only kept statistics for assessor staff. So during that year, there were 24 students that took that class. 2019, we started keeping the statistics for all students, and so the number that year was 42 for all students, and 33 of those were assessor staff. 2020, it went up to 53 students for the year, and 40 of those were assessor staff. 2021 was the high, which was 73, and 50 of those were assessor staff. So far in 2022, we've only had 3 students take this class. However, that's simply because we have changed instructors. Our former instructor had retired, and so we've been in the transition period. We're still working out getting this advertised, and so we've kind of worked that out, but that's why that number is low at this period of time. So that will conclude my report on training and certification, and I'm available to answer any questions that you might have for me.
Any questions, colleagues? Mr. Gaines? Yes.
First of all, I wanted to thank you, Ms. Lumsden, for pulling all that data together.
Certainly.
That's very helpful, but it looks pretty consistent in terms of the numbers even during the pandemic, which is encouraging.
Yes, if I may. One of the things I was trying to bring up is the thing about these 3 classes is that we've always had them, well, not always, but once we put them into action, they've always been available before and after, during, and after the pandemic. And so, and the point behind them is really to help people pass the certification exam. So there's always been a tremendous need for them. They used to be, quite some time ago, taught in person, and it was referred to as Course 1. And it was taught in person, and every newly hired appraiser would go and take that class. And then after the class, after they successfully passed the class, then they would take the certification exam. And so that's what this whole thing is designed towards, is to helping assessors and their staff pass that certification exam so that they're prepared. They don't have to take this class, but most of them will take one of these 2 classes to help them be prepared and take the exam. So it has a pretty high success rate.
Great. Just a general question on other classes that are being provided. Are we seeing more participation in general than we were prior to the pandemic, or?
Well, we haven't. So just this last year, okay, let me kind of back up a little bit. So in 2020, of course, we weren't able to teach any of the classes due to the pandemic. We taught 6 classes that year, and then we were shut down due to COVID, and we had the stay-at-home orders.
Yes.
So it took us that whole rest of the year to get up and running. 2021 is when we started bringing our classes back again. And even then, we were still doing COVID, and not doing anything in person training. So it's been a challenge, and we've expanded. We started out only offering the class to 30 students at a time, and then we have since been able to go from that to 35, and now we've gone from 35 to 40. So we've been able to expand it. The popularity of all of these classes is very high. They usually, when we announce that we're having these classes, they fill up within like 2 to 3 days, if even a day. So they're fill up very quickly, so they're very well in demand. And especially, it doesn't seem to be more so because of the pandemic. It's mostly because of the need for these classes. They, like I said, they help the student, excuse me, they help the students, learn these different appraisal techniques, but they also help them get their advanced certification. And once they have their advanced certification, they only need to take, instead of taking 24 continuing education hours each year, they're only required to take 12 then, because they've usually taken the majority, if not all, of our, advanced classes. And then they can use our self-study sessions that we have, and then attend different conferences. There's also webinars that are offered through CASA, which is an affiliate of the CAA. So all of these things are all helpful and help to spread, increase their knowledge in these different areas that are available. So I don't know that what's changed is the virtual format of it, of us being able
Right.
to offer it to them virtually. And we've never
That's
been
right.
able to do that before. So
Yes.
that's been very helpful, and we've had a lot of learning experiences, some good, some not so good in terms
Right.
of trying to hone in our skills on trying to teach virtually, which is not a very easy thing to do, especially when it has to deal with, like I said, going over mathematical problems and stuff on a whiteboard and trying to show that, via Teams. My staff has been incredible in trying to keep working on that and making it better and better and better. So, from what we started at to where we are now, we're so much better, but we're also knowing that we can keep improving on that as well. So even after now that we're going back to doing these in person, we've still kept some of them virtually, and we're trying to offer like half and half in most cases of our classes that we're offering, to where you can take them either virtually or in person, because we found that it works really well for some of the counties that are, makes it more difficult for them to get to these classes or to send their staff to the classes, or they don't have the budgets to send them to these
Yes.
classes. So we're really trying to keep that in mind going forward. And then in addition to that, we found that some people just learn better in person, and they would rather have them in person.
Sure.
The other thing we're trying to do this year, which we had started to try to do prior to the pandemic, but then we got shut down, is we're expanding trying to stretch out the locations that we're going to be holding these classes. So
Great.
that we have, I think, a couple of them scheduled up in the Shasta area for
Great.
some of the Northern California counties.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've scheduled several of them down in Southern California. We've scheduled some in the Central Valley. We scheduled our CLCA classes, and I think one is in Madera and one's in, I want to say it's in one of the Bay Area counties. I think it's Alameda. So we've been trying to really focus on that as well, of trying to spread out our resources, and then again utilize the county assessor staff to help us spread those locations out. Most of that, when we're using the county assessor staff, it's to teach the classes in person for us.
Sure.
So that allows us to spread out again across the state, so that we have a little bit more opportunities.
Good. That's great. Well, thank you. I really appreciate it, because you've answered a couple of questions. I was getting, complaints or concerns, at least from some of the county assessors that are more remote. So we're providing more options for them in
Right.
terms of virtual. And then you're also spreading out where the classes are offered a little bit more throughout the state. So even if you were in a remote small county, you're going to have better access. So that's kind of what was driving me in terms of how do we make sure we're getting the right classes to people that are having issues with access.
Exactly. That's always
Thank
been
you.
our goal, so
Thank you.
thank you.
Great.
Member Gaines has a district that's right in your backyard. It's real easy for him to do either virtual or in-person training, but he also has a lot of people down in Southern California where he meets up with my district, and all of my people are down there. And I'm just wondering if I've got somebody from Disneyland area or out in Imperial Valley that's in the agricultural business that wants to learn something about what we're doing. Their only option really is virtual. And is the virtual just as accessible to them as it is to Member Gaines? I assume it would be. But that means our office has to be pretty well informed about what's available when they come ask. Do you know if each office has enough material that we can intelligently reply to requests that we get to learn something about what we do. My first inclination is to go to your local community colleges and your state universities to see if they have any courses that are somewhat related to what we do that would be good for them to take, which they can take without having to get on a train or a plane.
So let me clarify, are you talking about for students or the general public or for the assessor staff?
I'm talking about students. I have
Okay, students in general.
restaurants I go to, and some of the people working in the kitchen, because Daddy owns a restaurant, neither they nor Daddy want them to spend the rest of their life there. And they're doing some college, they get really good grades, but they're working in the kitchen, and they're looking at some new profession, and they're asking me, how do we learn what's going on in the assessment business? And I give them a little indication about the courses that we found, and there are not very many, in the public sector, and then we have quite a deal, and if I have a little pamphlet from you about what we have, I'd grab it.
So certainly. So let me first clarify that the training courses that I'm talking about, that I've been talking about through this session, are directly aimed towards appraisers that are either BOE staff
Yes.
or for county assessors staff. They're appraisers that are certified or trying to be certified. So that's what these courses are for. However, there is
Maybe the only game in town, too, what you have.
However, there is information on our website that's available to anyone from the public. We have courses out there. We have self-study sessions that are out there, and anyone can take them. We actually have people from the general public that take those self-study sessions, and when they complete them, we send them certificates of completion. There's all sorts of stuff on our website that is available for anyone to take that wants to take them. There may be some prerequisites listed on them, but it's not a case of where they have to be certified to take them. They're available to whoever wants to take them on our website. As far as our classes, and then again, the American River College class, that's, even though that college is in this area here in Sacramento, I believe it's Sacramento County, even though it's in Sacramento County, this is an online course, and so anyone of the general public can sign up for that class, that can sign up for, through American River College. So that's available to anyone to take that, and it's an entry-level basic appraisal training class.
And we have quite a bit of material on the website.
Yes, there's quite a bit out there, and you can always reach out or have a constituent reach out to our training section, and they can provide them with that information as well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
That's helpful.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation. Is that finished? Thank you. Mr. Keddy? Mm-hmm. Could you call the next
The
presentation?
next sub-item is assessment practices surveys presented by Ms. Lumsden.
Thank you.
Okay, again, this is Patty Lumsden, Chief of the County Assessed Properties Division, and my final report will be on the assessment practices surveys. For calendar year 2022, we have issued a total of 5 assessment practices survey reports via letters to assessors for the following counties, which are Santa Barbara County in District 2, Alameda County in District 2, Sierra County in District 1, Stanislaus County in District 1, and Amador County in District 1. And again, in addition to these 5 counties, we are actively working on 11 other surveys and/or samples, and they're in various stages of production in the pipeline. There are 6 in District 1, 3 in District 2, 1 in District 3, and 1 in District 4. And as part of our process improvement plan for our assessment practices survey, we have begun implementing a hybrid plan for the coming 22-23 fiscal year, where staff has begun traveling again to conduct their surveys and/or samples in person, while continuing to collect some of that information remotely as we deem appropriate. We found that during the pandemic that collecting some of this information remotely has been very useful to both the assessor and as well as our own staff, and has been less impactful on the assessor. We plan to work closely with each assessor and their staff to determine the best way to conduct each one of these surveys and/or samples, and how to collect the necessary information in the least impactful way for that particular county. We will monitor the results of our plan closely so that we can adjust it as we need to, as we continually look for ways to improve our program and make it more efficient and more meaningful. And that will conclude my report on assessment practices surveys, and I'm available to answer any questions you might have. Okay,
No questions, thank you.
great. Thank you very much.
Our next sub-item is state-assessed property, presented by Mr. McCool.
Good afternoon, Chair Cohen and honorable members. My name is Jack McCool, Chief of the State Assessed Properties Division. Today I will provide information on the status of ongoing work in our division. Staff have completed the annual allocations of the unitary values the board adopted in May, and staff have mailed the allocation reports to the assessees as required by Revenue and Taxation Code Section 746. The reports provide each assessee's assessment allocations to each county, as well as the proposed assessed values of the assessee's non-unitary property. Staff are currently preparing the preliminary roll for 2022. Revenue and Taxation Code Section 755 requires us to transmit the preliminary roll to each county auditor by July 15th. The preliminary roll only provides an assessment total for each tax rate area and does not provide the additional detail that appears on the final roll that will be transmitted after the board adoption in July. We hope to have the preliminary roll mailed to the county auditors by the end of this week. Staff also continue to complete the private railroad car assessments for the current year. Private railroad car property statements were due April 30th, and staff have been working diligently to complete the appraisals. The final private railroad car values will appear before the board at the July board meeting. That concludes my report on the status of our division's ongoing work for this month. And as always, I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCool. Let me see if there's any questions. I myself don't have any. Do we have any down on this end? No. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Keddy, is there anything?
Yep, we have another sub-item, our last one, Welfare Exemption Process Improvement Project, which will be presented by Ms. Cooper.
Good afternoon, Chair Cohen and honorable members of the board. My name is Holly Cooper, and I'm the Principal Property Appraiser of the Assessment Practices Survey Unit. Today, I will be giving you an update on behalf of Ms. Lauren Keish, the Principal Property Appraiser of the Welfare Exemption Section, on the Supplemental Clearance Certificate Process Improvement Project. I am pleased to announce that we have executed all changes to the application claims and approval processes as part of this project. Our purpose for the project was to streamline the process of issuing an SCC for claimants seeking to exempt low-income rental housing from property taxation. The project encompasses a comprehensive review and update to our procedures of the SCC application process, the claims process, and the approval process. Each component has involved internal and external discussions, as well as feedback and suggestions from claimants and/or their representatives. During our review of each process, we identified opportunities for improvement and ways to increase efficiency while processing SCC claims. We begin with the examination of the SCC application process to create a more clear and user-friendly application for claimants, which has been completed. Upon completion of the application process, we moved on to our examination of the SCC claims process with the goal of simplifying and modernizing our procedures to increase efficiency in our internal processing of SCC claims. As a result, we have modernized and improved our internal claims processing procedure. Following the completion of the modernization of the claims process, we've progressed to our final process of this project with the examination of the SCC approval process. Our analysis revealed an opportunity to provide a solution for claimants to submit SCC claims and supporting documents electronically to relieve the inconvenience and delays caused by mailing, and in turn increase efficiencies in the SCC approval process. Over the next 3 months, we will be monitoring the changes implemented as part of the SCC Process Improvement Project to measure their effectiveness and plan to make adjustments or further improvements to the process as needed. In addition, we have refocused our scope to updating our website as suggested by Board Member Vasquez. We are now conducting a comprehensive review of the welfare exemption webpage and plan to provide more information and available resources for claimants to utilize during the application process, as well as providing the filing requirements for both organizational clearance certificates and SCCs. Further, we plan to expand the frequently asked questions on our website regarding the welfare exemption and veterans organization exemption to provide more questions and answers specifically related to SCCs. These updates will benefit claimants by providing more useful information pertaining to the SCC claims filing process. As we move forward with updating our welfare exemption webpage, we will continue to provide updates to allow for visibility into the progress of this project and to ensure that the board members are kept informed. This concludes my report, and I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Let me see with my colleagues if there's any questions. Mr. Vasquez has one.
Just one quick one. First of all, thank you for your report, Ms. Cooper. But to clarify my understanding, is it the nonprofit managing general partner of a limited partnership that owns and operates the low-income housing property that must file the supplemental clearance certificate?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So if that's the case, so if the low-income housing property is owned by a nonprofit organization and there's no limited partnership involved, then is the supplemental clearance certificate process necessary? I guess it's a question probably for Mr. Young.
Mr. Young.
So, if I recall the process correctly, it's owned by the limited partnership. There is a managing general partner that must qualify for it, and it is necessary. We promulgated a rule in order to make sure that they meet the qualifications in order to get the exemption.
Okay. I'm not an attorney, but I was just
Okay.
curious about that. But, okay, thanks.
I tell you what, I will look into it very, very closely, but it is a necessary process, but let me
Appreciate it.
delve a little deeper into that.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you. Does that conclude your presentation?
It does. Thank you.
No problem. Ms. Cicchetti.
I think we go to the AT&T moderator to see if they have any public comments.
Okay.
AT&T moderator, please let us know if there's anyone on the line who'd like to make a public comment on these matters.
Ladies and gentlemen, to comment, please press 10 on your phone's keypad at this time. We have no callers in queue.
Okay, thank you. The
Please
next
call the
item?
next item, yes.
The next item is K5A, Legislative Research and Statistics Division, Chief's Report, Legislative Issues, Update on Administrative and Program-Related Legislative Bills Impacting the BOE. This item is presented by Mr. Weatherby.
So good afternoon.
Hello.
Chair Cohen, Vice Chair Schaefer, honorable members of the board. My name is Dustin Weatherby. I'm the Chief of the Legislative Research and Statistics Division. So board members, prior to moving to the PAN attachment, I will highlight a few upcoming legislative deadlines. The last day for the legislature to place any measure on the November 2022 general election ballot is this Thursday, June 30th. The legislature will then have its policy committee deadline in the second house prior to adjourning for summer recess on July 1st. The legislature will then reconvene from summer recess on August 1st for the final month of the legislative session. So now I will move on to the PAN attachment, which includes a summary of legislation affecting the BOE that is still pending in the legislature. The first bill I want to highlight is Senate Bill 440 by Senator Dodd. SB 440 was amended on June 16th to authorize the board to provide deadline extensions and penalty and interest relief to taxpayers under the alcoholic beverage tax law during a governor-proclaimed state of emergency. Senator Dodd and his office worked with the BOE and the CDTFA to craft language in SB 440 that mirrors similar changes made by CDTFA to other special tax and fee programs, ensuring equity and administrative efficiency in providing taxpayer assistance during these extenuating circumstances. With the Senator's work, the bill was placed on the Assembly Revenue and Taxation Committee's consent calendar and was passed the committee unanimously yesterday, and the bill will now go to the Assembly Appropriations Committee with a recommendation to also be placed on the committee's consent calendar. The next bill is Senate Bill SB 1494 by the Senate Governance and Finance Committee, which contains one of the board-sponsored legislative proposals to amend RTC Code Section 97.68 relating to a sales tax augmentation fund to correct references of BOE to CDTFA. So that bill is currently on the Assembly floor. The next bill is Senate Bill 1496, also authored by the Senate Governance and Finance Committee, which contains another board-sponsored legislative proposal to amend RTC Section 32471.5 to extend the sunset date for the Offer and Compromise program for open and active businesses under the alcoholic beverage tax law for an additional 5 years until January 1st, 2028. The bill passed the Assembly Revenue and Taxation Committee on June 20th and is now pending in the Assembly Appropriations Committee. The next bill is AB 1206 by Assemblymember Bennett, which would require that a rental unit continue to be treated as occupied by a lower income household when the income of those occupants increases up to 140% of the area median income. If the owner is a community land trust whose land is leased to low income households for the fiscal years 2022-23 through 2027-28. The board voted at the February board meeting to support AB 1206, and that bill is still pending in the Senate Appropriations Committee. The next bill is Assembly Bill 1733 by Assemblymember Quirk, which would have provided the flexibility for state agencies to continue to conduct teleconferencing remote meetings. That bill has failed legislative deadlines, is no longer in consideration for the year.
Question.
Yes.
Can you give me a little color around why it failed? The discussion committee, I don't know.
It seems to be I wasn't privy to the discussions,
Yes.
but I just know there was a lot of stakeholders when I met with the legislative director around the bill, and it was double referred, so it was probably a lot of amendments that would have been taken.
Can you tell me who the stakeholders were that you know?
I'm not
You don't know?
privy to those.
Okay.
I was just told there was a lot of stakeholders, mainly state agencies, I would assume.
Thank you.
Yep. The next bill is Senate Bill 518 by Senator Laird, which would require the BOE, upon request, to provide confidential taxpayer information on the Weingarten tax return and schedule, unless the taxpayer is a natural person. The bill was heard in the Assembly Revenue and Taxation Committee yesterday and passed the committee, and now will head to the Assembly Appropriations Committee. The bill will be amended to allow an opt-out so taxpayers may choose to not have their confidential information released publicly. The bill's amendments are not in print as of this morning, so I cannot speak to the specifics of those amendments. And now, board members, I will conclude with an update on Proposition 19. Senate Bill 989 by Senator Hertzberg was amended June 13th to allow certain taxpayers to defer payment of local property taxes with penalty and interest relief if they have claimed a Proposition 19 property tax relief with the county assessor and have requested deferment with the county assessor within 1 calendar year, but before January 1st, 2024, whichever is later. Prior to January 1st, 2024, of receiving the first tax bill for the property. The bill was heard in the Assembly Revenue and Taxation Committee yesterday, and it also passed. The bill will be amended to only apply its provisions to only counties with populations of 4 million or greater. Currently, that only county would be Los Angeles County. Counties with less than 4 million would need a resolution of the Board of Supervisors if they choose to allow deferment authorized under this bill. The bill's amendments are not in print as of this morning, so I also cannot speak to the specifics of those amendments. The other measure pending the Assembly is Assembly Constitutional Amendment 9 by Assemblymember Kevin Kiley, which would have repealed several of the provisions of Proposition 19. The bill is unlikely to qualify for the November 2022 ballot, as it has not been referred to a committee, and the last day to place a measure on the ballot is this Thursday. This will conclude my presentation on this item, and I'm available to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
I have a question about Senate Bill. 989 by Hertzberg, property taxation taxable value transfers. It said it's set for hearing for 6/27, and that was yesterday. I was wondering if you had any updates about what happened in committee yesterday on that issue.
Yeah, so it passed yesterday.
It passed.
And it's going to be amended.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. That's
Yeah,
what you said.
and
My
it's going to
apologies.
go to Assembly Appropriations next.
Okay. And do you know if the Board of Equalization had their voice or in that legislative process?
We released
letter, did we-
our
okay.
legislative analysis on the bill.
Okay.
The senator worked with the Assessors Association
Mhm.
on the amendments that will be forthcoming. So the assessors were opposed unless amended up to that point.
Okay.
And because of those amendments, they're going to go neutral.
Okay, thank you. Colleagues, do you have any other questions about the legislation? Yes, Mr. Vasquez?
Just a quick follow-up to SB 989 on the Hertzberg. You mentioned it passed yesterday, but in looking at, there's two conditions there. The first one makes sense, that they must claim the base year value exemption, or I guess value exclusion. But when you get to the second point, it says they must request tax deferred with the assessors within 1 calendar year, but before January 1 of 2024 of receiving that first tax bill for the property. This sounds helpful, but at the second condition, with the dates in it, would seem to limit the number of property owners who could request deferral. Can you kind of clarify that piece of it, though? Or do you know much about that?
That would be correct. So I guess the senator's intent, I don't want to speak on behalf of the senator, but the intention would be, currently there are some counties that have Proposition 19 transfer backlogs, and so this would just provide taxpayers that limited relief while assessors work through those backlogs. Otherwise, you might have an open-ended situation where taxpayers could request relief well beyond, that window. So I think it's just targeted to kind of give assessors a little extra time to clear those backlogs and provide taxpayers some relief.
That was my thought, but I wasn't sure, so I wanted to clarify. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Oh, there's
Any-
another question.
Okay, Mr. Gaines? All right. Thank you. Appreciate your presentation.
Let's go to see if we have any public comment. AT&T moderator, please let us know if there's anyone on the line who would like to make a public comment on this matter.
To comment on this matter, please press 10 at this time. Madam Chair, we have no callers queued up.
Mr. Vasquez?
Just one quick question. Since, and it sounds like you may or may not have the answer to this one, but, given that little I guess that allowance they're allowing in this 989 that we just talked about, do we have a ballpark estimate roughly how many people you think might fit into that category?
Unfortunately, we don't. Based upon some of the data we got from assessors, there have been over 2,000 claims for Proposition 19.
2,000 what?
2,000 claims, but only 25 of the 58 counties have responded to that request. I mean, it is worthy to note that Prop 19 has really only been in effect for about a calendar year. So as assessors get more in the groove of processing these claims, then that compliance on the request will go up. But as far as of how many taxpayers this would apply to is unknown, because a taxpayer could buy a new home within the next 18 months,
yeah.
and then also would apply under this bill's provisions.
Yes, go ahead, Mr.
Yeah,
Rubin.
just expand on it a little bit. Tell me if I'm correct here, but there was an article about a lady in L.A.,
Yeah,
right?
that's how I'm referring.
And she was moving into a home, I think, with her daughter who
Yeah.
needed some assistance, and she was really hurting financially about paying her taxes. So I think that's what kind of spurred this on, right? Because
That's what my understanding
there
is,
have been
yeah.
some issues, in counties throughout the state that these folks need their tax money back. They're on tight budgets, so I'm glad it's moving forward.
All right, thank you, Mr. Weathersby. Mr. Keddy?
Hello, here we are. The next item is L2A.
Thank you.
Board member requested matters, board member initiatives, property tax abatement, board work group update. The board will receive an update on the upcoming property tax abatement board work group convening and the strategy going forward. This item is presented by Ms. Cohen and Mr. Vasquez.
Thank you. So, colleagues, this item is to announce that the board's property tax abatement work group will meet during the upcoming July 26th, 27th, and August 30th and 31st, and possibly September 27th through the 28th board meetings. So for the next 3 months in July, August, and September, the board's property tax abatement work group will be meeting. And I'm pleased to be joined by Board Member Vasquez in convening this work group. Our work at the upcoming property tax abatement work group hearings is actually building upon the work that I started in 2019, and Board Member Vasquez work in this area. We've both joined jointly at this, and our goal is to address all the critical issues of increasing housing production in California, looking at different ways to stimulate this production. We know that there are staggering costs for producing housing here in the state of California. We also know that the governor and the legislature are committed to addressing our housing crisis and reaching the annual goals that they have established for housing production. However, what we are seeing still is an unmet need, an unmet housing need in both the affordable and the, quote, missing middle space. The purpose of the property tax abatement work group is to examine how property tax abatements could be used as a tool to spur the development of new housing. This is particularly important for the so-called missing middle, those individuals who don't quite qualify for affordable housing because of their income, but are not wealthy enough to easily enter the marketplace as new homeowners. So, we are all aware that this is often a very difficult area to develop new housing in. Often there are restrictions, such as zoning, that don't allow for more dense housing development. The process of planning for development, particularly for housing, it's difficult, and local governments impose development fees as part of the approval process, and it's these fees in turns that reduce the margin of profit necessary for developers to proactively proceed and get housing to the market. And just as a reminder, in April of this year, the National Association of Home Builders reported that building materials costs had risen 8% since January. Also, building material costs had risen over 20% year to year and had risen 33% since the start of the pandemic. So as you can see, these costs are going up, and our housing production is going down. So what I'd like to do is to begin to look at ways that we could address the issue of property tax abatements as a way of determining how and if property tax abatement could work to reduce the cost of producing housing. And in doing so, our analysis, what we will begin to examine and review is how we will listen and learn about how revenue backfills could be created to address any reduction in property tax revenue and how that could impact our schools and our local governments, two very important systems that rely on property taxes. Our goal is to be proactive and to exercise the board's unique constitutional and statutory power and begin to explore how the property tax system can use to produce this important public good. more affordable housing. I, at the conclusion of our hearings, and after listening to presentations from distinguished experts and our stakeholders, I propose that we issue a report on the work of the abatement work group. And so it is really with great anticipation that we continue this journey. I want to pivot and see if Mr. Vasquez has any colleagues, any comments, excuse me, as well as any of the other members who'd like to make remarks on this important work. Mr. Vasquez?
No, thank you. And there is several folks that I've had the opportunity to speak to in the nonprofit world on this issue. And actually, interestingly enough, just last month, or it might have been earlier this month, I sat on a panel with our controller, Ms. Yee, and as I was talking about what some of the things we were looking to do on the affordable housing front and trying to figure out some creative ways and how we were going to hopefully have these hearings soon, hopefully in person, but we'll see how that goes down the road. She mentioned, or she shared with us that I didn't realize, I know in some cities like in our city, well, actually not so much maybe in Santa Monica, but the larger LA city, seems to put a lot of obstacles in front of a lot of these nonprofits, meaning that they have to go through so many different approvals and they all have a cost. So for many of the nonprofits, and I think you mentioned it in your statement or your
Letter.
in your letter,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I know in San Francisco and especially in Santa Monica, you know, it's to build an affordable unit is getting up to the $600,000 just for one unit.
Correct.
And I'm hearing, and our controller, Betty Yee, kind of confirmed it, that some of that cost is because the state, on top of the city, has like 7 different divisions or departments they have to go through and get approvals, and each one has a cost.
Yes.
And she mentioned that she was going to try to facilitate, or I guess work with all these departments within the state and see if they can streamline that. And I don't know how tough that's going to be, and maybe our former senator here might have a better idea, because I'm sure you're going to have to deal with some political pushback on that, because I'm sure a lot of these departments, you know, with those departments that exist, you know, you could be, if you streamline them, you're obviously going to be consolidating and possibly losing a department or two, which could be a political challenge. But at the end of the day, I think, you know, I'm hoping in our hearings and as we bring this back and start hearing from folks, especially those in the nonprofit world, to see what we can do to try to minimize at least the cost that we put on them from inside our government. And I know, and you kind of touched on the other one, we really have very little control, and that's just the cost of materials. You know, for some, you know, that seems to be going up. And I know during the pandemic, it even, you know, I know some people that were building homes during the pandemic and got caught when they were going out to buy lumber, how it, in many cases, tripled their bill. And they were prepared, you know, they had a budget they were working with, and only to find out that they ran out of money before they could even finish the project. But at least on the government side, I think we should hopefully, as we dive into this and we hear presentations, at least things that maybe we're putting in, obstacles we're putting in, especially financial obstacles that we're putting on these developers, we can find a way to streamline that and hopefully minimize those costs for them. The other issue you kind of touched on as well is that we're starting to get folks in the for-profit side that for many years just didn't bother dealing with building affordable housing because it just didn't pencil out. But now as we're putting it out there that we are open to listening to them and see what it would take on their part to incentivize it, to make it pencil out for those in the for-profit world to start building affordable housing. It looks like we might have, hopefully, some good proposals come out of this that we can incorporate and see how we can move them forward to try to move in that direction to try to fill the demand. Because, you know, every year we're hearing, and even from our governor as late as this last state of the state, that, you know, we keep slipping further and further back in this number of affordable units that we're producing every year. it's only multiplying. So looking forward to it. Really appreciate you bringing this back. And I know we're going to have a lot of participation, not only from my colleagues here, but as well from other folks in the business.
Well, I do hope so, because I think that this is timely, and it's going to take all hands on deck for us to solve our way out of this dilemma. Ms. Cicchetti?
Let's see if the AT&T moderator has anyone on the line. AT&T moderator, please let us know if there's anyone on the line who would like to make a public comment regarding this matter.
Certainly, Madam Chair. On the phones, press 10 on your phone's keypad. And we have no one responding in queue.
All right, thank you. I want to recognize Mr. Gaines.
Yeah, thank you. I want to thank you, Chair Cohen and Member Vasquez, for bringing this forward. It's really critical. It's a very big and challenging issue, but I think with the right political wherewithal, you can actually make some changes, but they're huge challenges. I think, when you're talking about affordability, Member Cohen, you talked about folks that are still struggling to buy a home, but there's no program available or anything to help them. They're kind of caught in the middle. They're not making enough to afford a home, but they don't have a program that helps them out. And it seems to me that, cooperation with the building industry could be helpful in trying to come up with some ideas, because I think it would be nice to be implementing some incentives that people could qualify for. I mean, if we think of mortgages and we think of Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae, those are really programs that were set up so that people could afford to buy a home. Prior to that, the 30-year mortgage really wasn't that well known historically. So, government said, hey, we need a means that will provide a type of financing that helps a person get into a home with a 30-year mortgage, and seems to me we could be doing more in that area. And we've created a lot of obstacles that make it very difficult to even produce an affordable home. And an area that it seems that nobody wants to touch is the California Environmental Quality Act. Because what's happened to that is the initial intent was to mitigate environmental impact as a result of the construction of a building, and yet it's broadened so much over the decades that it can be used kind of as a weapon to shut projects down. And so if cooler minds could prevail and take a look at that and figure out ways that would simplify the process for getting approval for homes, that'd be a huge one. And I think we could look at more incentives that would be available to folks. And then I think coordination with the building industry and trying to figure out ways, how do we produce the product for that first-time home buyer? I think that's often what we're talking about, is that maybe someone who's rented that has put money aside for a down payment. And some of these programs are 3% down. I mean, so there are ways for people to get in, but it might be a very small home, a very basic home initially that gives them the opportunity then to develop equity and maybe move up or not, just pay it off. So thank you for bringing this forward. It's so critical. And given that our focus is on the taxation of property, I think it's right in our wheelhouse. So thanks.
No problem. I couldn't agree more. Seeing that there are no other comments on this, Ms. Cicchetti, let's keep. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Eppolite. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Cohen. Controller Yee and I would like to thank Chair Cohen and Member Vasquez for bringing the issue of affordable housing forward on the agenda. First, I'd like to note a concern about the titling of this agenda item. Chair Cohen, I'd like to ask Chief Counsel to come up. I'd like to ask him a question about this.
Chair Cohen, Vice Chair Schaefer, honorable members of the board, Deputy Controller. Yes, what can I do for you?
Mr. Nanjo, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Other than Revenue and Taxation Code 862, which provides the board with an abatement authority for penalties relating to property statements, are you aware of the State Board of Equalization having any other abatement authority relating to property taxes?
Thank you for that question, Deputy Controller. I'm not aware of any statute that would give the board broad authority to abate actual property tax as opposed to interest and/or penalties in limited circumstances. There are, in addition to RTC 862, similar relief-related provisions for penalty and/or interest for private railroad car, insurance, and alcohol taxes. But other than that, there is none that I'm aware of.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Nanjo.
Absolutely.
Please, Mr. Gaines, yes.
Trying to figure out, I know that when I served in the legislature, we talked a lot about the homeowner's exemption. It seems to me, given that we have oversight of the collection of property tax, at least the valuation, via the county assessors and state assessed properties, that certainly we have a role to play as to whether, I don't think we have decision-making authority on determining a tax credit or an abatement of a tax, but I think there's worthy discussion that can be had in this area that could lead us to conclusions where we could follow up through the legislature or other means. And so I don't want to discount my colleagues' efforts and what they're trying to do. Mm-hmm. And yeah, we don't have the ability to create an incentive or an abatement, correct? I think I understand that. But I think we have the means of looking at a huge challenge in the state and working with our other branches of government to see what can be done.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Gaines. I absolutely concur. I think that it's a big issue and deserves all hands on deck to be able to chip away and to share ideas. Yes. Mr. Vasquez?
Yes, thank you. I agree, and maybe, you're probably just dealing with the legal issue on abatements, but what about the exemption piece, the welfare piece? That's different than abatement, I'm
Right.
assuming. And that's something that could be just like a rule change on our end of it, couldn't
Right.
it?
I mean, again, informing the work group, the board has a memo that you prepared when you formed the work group.
Right.
And it discussed the board seeking to engage stakeholders on the ways within the areas of responsibility found in existing law to spur more affordable housing through property tax incentives. And, part of what the charge of the work group, as I understand it, and please correct me if I'm wrong because I'm reading the materials of the work group, is that the incentives you recognize the fact that the incentives may already exist in existing laws such as exemption deeds restrictions, and also you were open to new laws being passed
Exactly.
by the legislature or making policy recommendations to further those actions. So again, please don't take my comment as stating that you don't have a role to play. I'm just going back to, I'm answering the Deputy Controller's question and going back to kind of the charge that was stated very well in your work group memorandum. So thank you.
Thank you.
That's what I thought.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
my
I
only-
think that you asked a very detailed and narrow question as it relates to the spirit
And
of the
my
law.
only concern is that this board's only statutory authority relates to that one statute. And as an agenda item, I have a concern that we don't mischaracterize to the public what this board's authority is, and that a different title to the work group,
What would you suggest?
something, well, and the overall theme of the work group relates to affordable housing. And a title perhaps in the vein of property tax incentives for affordable housing might be a better characterization for the work group, because ultimately we're talking about property tax exemptions. So I thought that might be a better way to construe the goal of the work group, because tax abatements really is something that is a local level, what happens there, as opposed to what this board is able to do. So property tax incentives for affordable housing, I think, might be, you know, a better way to describe.
Are you, your comments, are they representing your ideas or the controller's ideas?
Both.
Both? Okay. Well, we respectfully receive them, and if I'm not mistaken, she has taken action on this item when we voted to put together a memo.
Sure.
I don't want to get caught up in, you know, what sounds like to me semantics on the calling of the memo, the naming
Sure.
of the memo.
But it struck me when I saw the agenda, that title. So I just wanted to bring it to the board's attention.
Thank you. We welcome you bringing that to our attention. And I'm not prepared to pivot at this stage in the point,
Sure.
but I want you to know that we do hear you, and it's on the record. And thank you, Mr. Nanjo, for answering Mr. Eppolite's question. But with all due respect, I'm still prepared to move forward as things are stated.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yes,
Chair Cohen.
Mr. Eppolite, it was fully vetted, and if you'd like, I'm happy to share with you a little bit more background and how we came to it. Thank you. All right, Ms. Cicchetti, how are you?
Very good.
Good, that's good. What's next on the agenda?
The next item is M1, Public Policy Hearings, Proposition 19 Implementation. There are no planned staff reports or external speakers for this agenda item for this month's meeting. However, persons who wish to address the board on this topic as a public comment may do so. AT&T moderator, please let us know if there's anyone on the line who would like to make a public comment regarding this matter at this time.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On the phones, please press 10 to make comment. And we have no callers responding in the queue.
All right, thank you very much. Ms. Cicchetti, let's continue moving forward.
That's right. The next item is M2A, Public Policy Hearings, Impact of Public Calamities on Property Tax Administration, County Boards of Equalization, Assessment Appeals Boards, AAB, Remote Hearings. There are no staff reports or external speakers for this agenda item for this month's meeting. However, persons who wish to address the board on this topic as a public comment may do so. I'm going to go out to the AT&T moderator. AT&T moderator, please let us know if there's anyone on the line who would like to make a public comment regarding this matter.
And once again, to make public comment on this matter, press 10, please, at this time. And we have no callers queued up.
Thank you. Ms. Cicchetti, please call the next item.
The next item is N, Public Comment on Matters Not on the Agenda. Persons who wish to address the Board of Equalization regarding items not on the agenda. Please note that the board cannot take action on items not on the agenda. However, the board can schedule issues raised by the public for consideration on future meetings. I'll let you know that we have received a public comment on this item, and I'd like to first go out to the AT&T moderator, and then I will read the public comment.
Thank you.
AT&T moderator, please let us know if we have anyone on the line who would like to make a public comment regarding this matter at this time.
Once again, to make public comment, please press 10 to queue up. And we have no callers queuing up at this time.
We received a public comment. The person making the public comment selected every single one of the agenda items that he had a public comment on. He did not select one, he selected all of them. His comment is, Board of Equalization, Senior Stewart, Local A, Edward Joseph Kanajaki, Houston, Texas International, Mobile Office HCD, Program Technician 2, District Representative Apprentice, CalPERS, Paren, retiree. And that's the end of the public comment.
All right, thank you very much. Could you please call the next item?
Our next item is O, closed session, discussion and action on litigation matters. The board will now go to closed session to discuss litigation matters.
Thank you very much. Please let the record reflect it's 3:11, and we are now going into closed session.
We're reconvened from closed session.
We are reconvening from closed session. Thank you very much. It is 3:54 in the afternoon. Ms. Cacchetti, if you could call the next item.
Okay. We are at the end of our meeting. There are no other items to call. We're up for closing remarks.
Okay, thank you. I have one closing remark, and then I know I want to recognize Senator Gaines. He has a few. Colleagues, before we adjourn for the day, I'd like to express my sincere condolences regarding the passing of David R. Dorr. Mr. Dorr served as the California Taxpayer Association's Chief Tax Counsel since 1987, when he joined the association after working for more than 23 years as the chief consultant for the Assembly Rev and Tax Committee. As the Assembly's top tax expert, Mr. Dorr worked with everyone from then Governor Ronald Reagan to then Assembly Speaker Willie L. Brown, Jr. And outside of work, he traveled extensively and was known for his sense of humor. He was one of California's foremost tax policy experts and leaves behind a legacy of fighting for taxpayers and one as a father, grandfather, friend, and mentor. So on behalf of the California Board of Equalization and the entire BOE family, I extend our condolences and prayers to Mr. Dorr's family and the entire CalTax organization during this incredibly difficult time of transition. Thank you.
Did you mention he's the author of that famous book that comes, 2 editions at least?
No, but before we mention that, I'd like to recognize Senator Gaines, who's got something to contribute as well.
Great. Thank you, Chair Cohen. I wanted to take this opportunity to adjourn in memory of Captain John J. Sachs. He was a U.S. Marine captain, resided in Placer County, actually a neighbor of ours, and was assigned to the Marine Medium Tilt Rotor Squadron 364, where he served as an MV-22B pilot, which is the Osprey aircraft that can take off like a helicopter and then adjust its motors and fly like an aircraft, very complicated aircraft. He passed away this month in a training accident, and America lost a fine Marine and a patriot. Captain Sachs's personal awards include the National Defense Service Medal and Global War on Terrorism Service Medal. He served as a United States Marine for 5 years and 8 months and was honored to serve his country. Like I said, he grew up around the block from us. My children grew up with him. He was just a great kid. Never seemed to get in any trouble, and just a fine gentleman. His dad, you may have heard of Steve Sachs. He was a second baseman for the LA Dodgers. The Sachs brothers and the Sachs family grew up in West Sacramento. But just a great family, so my prayers go to the family, to Steve Sachs and his mother, Debbie Sachs, to Dave and Patsy Sachs, who are also neighbors in the neighborhood, and to the Sachs sisters. It's a big family. They're great people, and just a very, very sad story. But Captain Sachs loved serving for his country. He loved flying. He loved the challenge of flying one of the most complicated aircraft there is, and we still don't know the cause of the accident, and that will take a while to determine that, but one questions whether it was mechanical failure because he was just an expert pilot. Secondly, I'd like to take this opportunity to adjourn in memory of Lou Euler, who passed away on June 3rd at the age of 88. Lou was a dedicated patriot who fought for American taxpayers. His accomplishments were many. He was a Yale graduate, an Army captain, an attorney, top aide to Governor Reagan, founder of the National Tax Limitation Committee, just to name a few of the things that he did. He was also a founding member of Bayside Church, where I attend. His work as a leader of the anti-tax movement that inspired my career in public service. His fight for reduced taxes and limited government spending has benefited Americans for decades. My prayers are with his wife Cindy, his son Kirk, and wife Tammy, and the entire family. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other notes? Okay, thank you.
I wanted to mention his textbook, if I could.
Please.
Yeah, David Dorr was a master.
Speak of the mic, please. The mic.
Oh, yeah. Was a master author of books about taxes, and his organization would give a book out to everybody that was in the field, so we'd know David's great mind, and I'd gotten a couple copies of it, and I've seen it in my office. Our staff has it and reads it, and he'll be known as one of the more prolific and more intelligent advocates for fairness in taxes, and that's what I look at the legacy of David Dorr. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, without any further ado, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you next month.